Hello again. Now, the acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo is the last candidate who's being interviewed for the Chief Justice post by the Judicial Service Commission. His interview started early this morning. Currently, they are at lunch and they should be back at about 3 o'clock. We'll take you back there live. Now, Raymond Zondo has less than 3 years before his 12th year non-renewable term as a Constitutional Court Justice comes to an end in 2024. And currently, he's an acting Chief Justice. He's been doing that for the last 7 months or so. Let's speak to someone now just to get some analysis and their sense about how Raymond Zondo and the other candidates have been doing this week. With some analysis, here's University of Cape Town senior researcher at the Democratic Governance and Rights Units, Chris Oxtoby. Chris, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Your overall impression as Raymond Zondo has been coming across today and the kinds of questions that JSC has been asking him.
Good afternoon, Dan. Yeah, look, so far it's been a calmer interview, I would say, than we saw yesterday with the interview of Judge President Malambo. Justice Zondo has faced a lot of questions about the conduct of the State Capture Commission, which we expected would be a big theme in his interview, and that has indeed proved to be the case. He's spoken at some length about his vision for the judiciary, especially about some of the challenges that the Constitutional Court is facing. I think he's come across as a very calm, very measured interview subject. And the questioning has, as I say, tended to be at times almost a bit more of a referendum on the conduct of the State Capture Commission rather than an analysis of his qualities as a potential next Chief Justice.
Yeah.
So,
but I guess that was, Chris, I guess that was inevitable in a way, because all of us and many of us who didn't really know much about Raymond Zondo, when he was thrust into the spotlight as the head of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, that's when we became to know him and watch him and stuff, and how he's conducted himself, and the fact that he's got only about 3 years or so to go before his term as the Justice of the Concord ends, and what likely might come out of the state capture report process in terms of legal review. I guess that question had to come.
It did have to come. And I think it is a very legitimate question to have been asked. There is a strong school of thought that it's not really appropriate for a sitting judge to even preside over a commission of inquiry at all, for some of the reasons that we heard spoken about towards the end of the session before lunch. And this perhaps is particularly applicable for someone who's in such a high leadership position. So I think you're absolutely right that it was inevitable that line of questioning was going to come. I just hope that we don't see the rest of the interview getting focused on those issues to the exclusion of talking about some of the core qualities that we would need to see in the next Chief Justice.
Yeah, and as I said, we've seen him in action. There are 3 ports I understand that the JSE sort of is interviewing them under. One is their leadership capability, because their skills are there, are known, their qualifications, they are judges, highly regarded, and that's why they are there. And then the other one is the issue around how they interact with people in terms of people's skills. So you've got leadership, you've got the part of how they come across in terms of people's skills. I mean, from your perspective, I mean, you can't question really Justice Zondo's leadership capabilities. I mean, we've seen it. It's been evident throughout the state capture thing, and even this morning.
Yes, I think he certainly has been carrying himself in the interview in very much the style one would expect to see from a leader of the judiciary. He's handled questions very calmly. He's introduced a lot of nuance into his responses. So when he's felt the need to disagree with a question, he's politely but firmly disagreed with it. So I think we have seen those qualities on display. And as you say, he's a very experienced judicial leader.
Yeah, 25 years, a quarter of a century. It's a long time, a quarter of a century indeed, and all that kind of different experiences, including the Labour Court. Now, Chris, Monday we had Tuesday we had Justice Madlanga. Wednesday we had Justice Maya. She's currently the president, of course, of the Supreme Court of Appeal. Yesterday we had Judge President of Gauteng, and that's Dunstan Mlambo. And that ugliness that came out there about the rumors of sexual, alleged sexual harassment, and that was not necessary from what we had earlier, later, and then to struck off or expunged. All of that. If you look at the whole week up to now, yes, we are not concluded yet, and yes, the JSC is going to be meeting behind closed doors tomorrow to deliberate and then finalize their recommendation to the president. If you look at the whole package, how has it been going?
It's been very inconsistent. I would say that's the biggest takeaway that I would have. Certainly, Justice Maya's interview, if you compare the tone and the atmosphere in the room during that interview compared to what we saw yesterday, it's a bit early to make a final judgment on how today's one is going to turn out. But from, I would say, quite a promising start early on, where there were some good questions asked in the first couple of interviews, we've seen another display of quite inconsistent treatment of candidates from the JSC, and certainly the introduction yesterday of rumours that a candidate was questioned about is something I've not seen before, and I think that's going to cast a large shadow over the process when we look back on it. So I think there've been some good moments, and there've been certainly some relevant questions asked. But I think there's been inconsistency, and there's also been a fair amount of questions asked that are not particularly relevant and are not particularly fair in some cases on candidates.
Thank you very much for your insights and your views. Chris Oxtoby is, of course, from the University of Cape Town. He's a senior researcher at the institution's Democratic Governance and Rights Unit.